Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 383 of Picks and Ponies right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I am your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thank you very much for joining us on, boy, if you're in the Midwest and I think the Northeast also, I got the hoodie on. It feels like the middle of winter, even though it's early December. It is chilly, but thank you for joining us. I'll tell you what's not going to be chilly, the action. Right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. It is going to be hot because we are coming in strong and talking about a fantastic sequence this Saturday in New York. 4 graded stakes, their last big day of 2024 in New York. 2 grade 2s, 2 grade 3s, highlighted by the grade 2 Remsen and the grade 2 Cigar Mile, both fantastic races, including 2 grade 3s. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Hit that notification bell on the top right on the YouTube channel. And please smash that like button, that thumbs up button below the video player. You like what you see? Smash it. We greatly appreciate it. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. And I put out on X today. Thank you so much. Our listening platforms completely blew up here in 2024. We always say you're probably best suited by watching our shows as opposed to listening our shows because of the visual aspect of our shows with race replays and not. But of course, we appreciate everyone who listens to us on our listening platforms. Subscribe to our Power Picks. Look below the video player. Might have some changes in 2025 with our tip sheet. We'll be talking about that in the next few weeks here on the channel and through email. And speaking of email, if you're not on our email list, and you'd like to be on our email list, please email me. It's right below there, right there, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. Email me and say, Howard, I'd like to be on our mailer, on our email list. And we send a lot of information out on there. We're not going to bother you every day. We're not annoying with our emails, but we do send out pertinent information. So if you're not on our email list and you'd like to be on that list, please email me and we'll place you on that list. We've also got a great website, hhhracingpodcast.com. Pete Visco runs that for the most part. We appreciate his efforts as well. And of course, Matt Cuter, Adelphi Racing Club, great sponsor of this show. Speaking of sponsors, we're in the works, folks, of working on some very exciting sponsors that we hope to announce here in the next few weeks and into 2025. So we appreciate everyone who sponsors the show. We couldn't do it without you. We couldn't do it without them. Check out Adelphi Racing at adelphiracing.com and Matt Cuter, the racing manager, Matt at adelphiracing.com. All right. So we had some epic rants last night on Picks and Ponies. Bet and Boozing. If you didn't hear Charlie Freeman's rant last night on Bet and Boozin' show, you might want to check it out. We have a co-host on this show who does our weekly rant. He better bring it tonight because, wow, last night was epic. I wonder if there's any interesting topic in horse racing to talk about recently. Let's find out as we bring on our co-host from the Saratoga Special and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the aforementioned Mr. Paul Halloran, and from the East Coast of Maryland, I bet it's pretty chilly there also, Pete Visco. Guys, we need to warm up the crowd with some handicapping. How are we doing tonight?
What's up, gentlemen? Paul, my friend, how are you?
Good evening.
Good evening. Guys, we got lots to talk about, and we'll save some rants for later. Pete, I actually have a mini rant prepared. I don't know if you have one or not, but we know Paul's going to have one for sure.
I know Paul will. Paul might have a few. I could see this being one of those up and down spikes of rants throughout the whole show. So I'm looking forward to those. I
miss Charlie, Howard. I got to go watch Charlie. I said the bad news for Charlie is he reminds me a lot of me 30 years ago, which is very bad for him.
Wow. Well, all you have to do is listen to the last few minutes. So
Was it about football?
You know what? I think I should just let you listen to it. I don't want to spoil it for you. So we got a lot of people in the chat. You know what? I have a little bit of a New Year's resolution, guys, for 2025. I need to do a little better job of mentioning people in the chat. We get really caught up with our handicapping, as we should, but we have so many great people in the chat, and I'm going to try to do my best, folks, to bring up more people in the chat. Like James. What's up, James? Hey, Howard and Team HHH. Love the emojis going on. We've got greetings from Ed Burke. Ed, how you doing? Appreciate it. Oh, look who's back from his vacay. Jim Pilars, back from vacay, ready for a great show, an epic Paul rant. Wow, we're all excited for that. Paul Conlon is here, coming in quote-unquote hot. Ooh, Paul, interesting that you mentioned a horse running tomorrow, Friday, as we film here Thursday night, because I got some prepared for that, Paul. But thank you. Yes, we got a big race tomorrow for yours truly. Newport Lights, who is a new person in the chat as of last night, at least new to our airwaves, I saw. Sunny and, well, mid-30s. Okay, at least it's sunny in New York. Newport, thanks for joining the show. Appreciate that. Let's see. We got Katie is here. What else? Tom Espinoza. I had to do a wellness check, guys. You know, they had a pretty big earthquake off the coast of California today, but it was pretty far north of San Francisco. Everything is fine. He did not fall into any big holes in the ground. He's all good. And Ralph Conti. There you go, Pete. Paisans.
Paisan.
Right, ready to rock and roll. All right, guys. We are going to talk about not the late pick 5. I think I actually said the late pick 5 in the intro. If I did, I apologize. What I meant to say is we're going to talk about the 4 stake races, 2 grade 2s, 2 grade 3s. But guys, before we do that, I hear there's a race happening tomorrow. And look, we got to talk about it, at least just for a minute here. Everyone knows at this point, most people know, I have a big interest in a horse named Uncle Jim, who is a current 2-year-old in the Brad Cox barn. Guys, he's running an allowance race tomorrow. Race 3, he is the flat 1 horse. There is an entry. Uncle Jim 4 to 5. I got to tell you guys, this is interesting because David Aragona, if this was just some horse that wasn't in the Kentucky Derby future pool, I have a hard time believing he make this horse 4 to 5 because Paul, he doesn't look 4 to 5 on paper. I mean, he only got a 63 buyer. There's other horses in here like My Matoli, you got a 74 buyer. The entry is solid, but that's going to be the same. The favorite, really, I think you could argue should be Cyclone State, who could be loose, is 2 to 1. I just find it interesting, Paul, that the sort of little vibe that people are getting, or the positive vibes from Uncle Jim, has made this horse what I think some would consider an underlay. To be honest, if you're not a fan of Uncle Jim, I could easily see why people would want to bet against this horse tomorrow, Friday.
Well, yeah, I don't think you bet him at 4 to 5. It is an entry, though. Remember, because New York insists on living in the 1500s and has this. That should be the New Year's resolution for Naira. Get rid of these damn double entries that are archaic, idiotic, and the most unbetter friendly bet thing. There you go, Pete. Right
there we go,
right,
Pete. That took the over under. You win, Pete. The over under was 2 minutes.
No, really. I mean, I'm not saying he'd be that much. Obviously, Howard, the odds are based on him, but still, if you did want to bet him at even money and do something crazy, do you really have to be penalized by having a horse that you want no part of betting? So, but more importantly, just for you, just the idea is just to see him progress and then see where Brad goes next with him. Brad has used the Louisiana route. He's used the Arkansas route. Typically doesn't use the Gulfstream route. So we'll see.
We will see. 1 to 2 according to Matt Miller, Pete. Could he really be that low in the spot?
I mean, I guess you never know. Yeah, I mean, it's a horse that people know if they've been following the future bets and stuff, so they see the name. It sticks out a bit.
Apparently, so our podcast is now affecting the pari-mutuel pools, Pete.
Hey, you never know, man. We have loads of fans, and they have deep pockets potentially. So maybe they're the one driving it down. So Howard, for the listeners, what do you hope? What do you expect? And what do you hope out of the race tomorrow?
I appreciate that. Look, if he doesn't win, I know everyone's going to text me, "Oh, Howard, what a bad pick." See, look, guys, I honestly could care less about the win or loss tomorrow in this situation, especially because there's no points on the line. I'd like to see him mid-pack. I think the entry's going to go, guys, to sort of set it up for him a little bit. I think the entry's going to go on the outside, make the number 2 work. I just want to see him break well, Pete. look professional like he did in his debut, and make a nice run in the stretch. I mean, if he doesn't win, I'd be a little surprised and disappointed. But really, I want him to go from about a 63 to like an 80 or high 70s. I want to mention, I put this out on in an email to our viewers and listeners earlier today. The horse that finished second to Uncle Jim, I'm not going to put it on the screen right now, a horse named Cop, C-O-P-P, did run this past, actually, Thanksgiving weekend at Churchill and came back with a 76 buyer. His previous race against Uncle Jim was a 58 buyer. So that was an 18-point increase. Again, you know the speed. These horses can improve greatly. I just want to see improvement, to be honest. If he wins, that'd be great. I wouldn't mind seeing a nice gallop out too, just to show me and prove to me I think he wants to go long. Of course, Paul, right? But that's the least.
It's all about the gallop out.
Something to overreact to, right, Paul?
Pete, you know what would be the ideal race for Howard? A 0 buyer and a great gallop out.
And a great gallop out. Yeah, break dead last, get a 0, don't finish, but then pass the field.
Yeah,
a furlong past the
gallop
wire.
Out all the way to Don Pepe's.
Yeah, well, no, definitely not the 0 buyer with Uncle Jim. Anyway, anyone that happened to put a future on Uncle Jim, good luck to us tomorrow. Hope he runs well. I'm guessing Oaklawn would be his next start. Maybe the Smarty Jones in early November, or early January, excuse me. I'm totally guessing, guys, but maybe that's the next spot. All right, let's go to the stake races in New York, and then we have a few things that we want to say. We have a few strong opinions. Let's talk about our opinions of the Go for Juan Race 4, Grade 3 on Saturday. $200,000 a mile. Older fillies and mares, field of 8. The morning line is actually in. Let me just refresh here. The morning line should be on Equibase. We'll just get them up here in just a second. While I'm doing that, let me take the rolling banner off. There we go. Morning line favorite is the number 3, Occult. Likeable filly still, for Chad Brown and Irad. Let's see where we are going to go here in race 4, the Go for Wand. I am going 3-8-5. Pete's going 1-3-8. Paul's going 3-5-8. Paul and I had the same 3 in different order. Pete, you're a little bit out of the box compared to the other 2 of us. You're going to go with Pletcher, Pratt, 3-1, Tizzy in the Sky, a nice speed horse in the rail. Talk to us, Pete.
Yeah, and that was sort of the driver was the pace angle for me, and I like the post, and I like when Pratt gets on. Obviously, I like when Pratt gets on a horse. I think I have him in like 3 of the 4 races that we're going to talk about tonight. But I like when Pratt has a chance, and this horse is only one. If you look, and I think they're all on the screen there. All 4 of the wins have been gate to wire. Apologies, let me take a drink. When she's not, that was an early one.
That was an early one for you, Pete. That was a little
I was thinking Pratt, so that was more of a jockey. That was more of a jockey misstep there. But all of her races she's won have been gate to wire. So I think with the post, and I like that Pratt knows when he has a field that he thinks he can wire. He's really good at getting on the lead. And even if you look at the time form, it said you see that there where it's like, it favors front runners, but there's other horses that are sort of contesting the lead. I think the one could be just faster than them when the one is at her best. So I think if the one does go, the 4 and the 5 maybe don't go as hard and let the one go from the rail. I think Pratt can sort of get her on the lead and do what she's done in those other times when she's actually won.
Yeah,
and she likes this course too. She's 6 for 7 in the top 2 here, so likes the course, is comfortable on it. Sorry, Howard, go ahead.
No, she figures. The layoff is I don't know. They missed all Saratoga. I don't know. That feels a little weird to me, Pete. That's one of the reasons why I don't have her in my top 3. I do have her as a B though. She'd be my 4th pick. I don't know. She'll be overbet with Flavian. I'm curious to see what Paul say about Tizzy in the Sky. She obviously can win. I'm not her biggest fan. Paul, do you want to talk about as we transition to our top choice at Cult? What is it about Tizzy in the Sky that we're a little bit hezzy on, so to speak? I always said my piece.
Yeah, I know it was 3 months ago, but and I know she broke through the gate, but she really had no notable excuse in the Ogden Phipps. Good field, obviously. That might be the excuse. Very good field.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of going to contradict myself because I'm going to say when we talk about a cult, at this time of year, I kind of want horses that have not been over raced. We're in November. If horses have been running, throughout the year with no break or only a short break, I don't necessarily want them. It's one of the reasons why a cult is one starts in July. Now that, again, Tizzy in the Sky has not started, so I assume there was some type of issue with her. To have this type of 3-month layoff, unless Todd just wasn't impressed with that race. She's very logical. I think Pete makes some good points. She may have a pace advantage. She's a horse for course at Aqueduct. So I don't have any really knocks on her. I just thought that a cult ran pretty well in that Keeneland race, moving back into grade 1. A horse has been very consistent for Chad. And again, I do want horses. This is the 5th start of the year, so relatively lightly raced. I just think she's in the right spot here. I think that she'll be close enough to the pace in order to get the first run on anyone who might be trying to come from behind her.
I agree, Paul. I don't love this horse. I did like her last year as a 3-year-old. She hasn't really gone on with it, guys, the way that you'd expect a Chad Brown horse to go on. And you're going to have to pay the IRAD tax, who, by the way, IRAD, of course, coming in here from Florida to ride this big card. So I have her on top, Pete, but I got to say, I don't love her, and I'm going to use your 1. And then, Paul, we both have the 8, who I think is also very logical. And I actually love the outside post going a mile. They can break. They can see what's going on. Shita Booty for the other Chad. Here we go again. Of course, the other Chad didn't quite work in California with the turf stakes over Thanksgiving weekend. But that being said, she's also 4. I don't mind the 7 furlong to a mile. She can be tactile if she needs to. She's probably more mid-pack. Dylan Davis is, what are you going to say, Paul? I think she's very logical. Pete, you've got her 3rd. Paul, you've got her 3rd. I got her 2nd. Not much to add. I just think she's logical here.
Pete, number 8 is what happens when you eat a pair of socks.
Shit a booty. I like that. That is not what I was thinking when I read the name. That would not be the first place I would go. But I enjoy that. That is lovely.
Well, there goes that deal, Paul, that we were discussing earlier.
Oh, that was not. Come on.
This is horse racing. It's horse racing. This
no. I'm just kidding. Anything else you guys want to talk about? There are others in here.
I like the 5.
I looked at comparative real carefully. Paul, you got her 2nd. She was really coming on at this point last year. Maybe she just liked cold weather. She's been off for a while. Again, I find that a little bit weird. But then again, maybe Brad's just pointing her to these late, early winter, late winter kind of races. She likes Aqueduct. I think the 5 comparative at 6-1 is interesting for your friends at Godolphin, Paul. And then we'll all comment on the 5 and move on.
I will tell you that my friends at Godolphin are having quite a month, aren't they?
They are.
They are on En Fuego. So I agree with that. I don't love the horse, but obviously Cox off the layoff. Not only is it not a problem, he excels at it. And she did run really well in the grade 3 by a Koa at Oaklawn last year. Stepped up in the Azeri, didn't run well, and you would assume that Brad's heading back to Oaklawn with her after this. So I just thought she's certainly at least a board threat at a good price.
Yep.
Hey, Paul, you want to
lost a Tizzy in the Sky last time, Pete? Actually, in April.
Yeah, great. I didn't love the horse, but a crazy stat which would potentially move her up. So Brad Cox with Manny Franco on dirt in the past 5 months. 47% wins, and that's 20 out of 43 wins, 33 out of 43 in the money, 77%. So what you said, Paul, about a board horse, those numbers are crazy, and that's a pretty very good size sample. So and it's even just as good. I think it was just as good at Aqueduct. Yeah, it was 40%, 72% at Aqueduct. And actually, they won together. I'm looking at it 5 out of the last 7 races, and the last 11 in the money. So that combination has just been on fire lately. So again, if the odds float up a bit on that horse, definitely one that maybe you look at on the board, if nothing else.
If you have a chance,
the Breeders' Cup win among those stats, right, Pete?
They're among the no, that's not even. No, not on. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at Aqueduct. My bad. That's why.
Pretty immersive, right?
Yes, that's why. Yes, immersive is on there.
Your Oaks, Pete. You don't leave out the Oaks winner, Pete.
And there's the Alcibiades. Oh, that's immersive twice.
Hey, Pete, could you narrow that down to graded stakes with the same with Franco on the dirt? Just curious.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah,
if you could do that while he's
doing
that.
Of course he can. He's the stat master.
Well, 3 out of 5 wins, but there 3 races are immersive. So out of the 5 races, 3 are immersive and 4 out of 5 in the money. So Alpine Princess.
I said only immersive.
5 though.
Yeah. It's funny. I've seen a couple of people say that. I don't know if they're
thinking Pretty Mischievous was a Godolphin Oaks winner. Yes. It's a mistake anyone named Paul could make.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter where they're. I mean, there's been some good horses. Obviously, it's Cox, so there's going to get some good horses. But that combination has just been on fire. So
interesting. Let's move on to the next race, guys. The next race, of course, has made a name for itself for years and years. But last year, for us personally, it was obviously a big deal, and frankly, one of the best renditions of the Remsen that we've seen in a while. New York, Kentucky Derby preps, including the Wood, have been a little bit down lately in terms of those horses going out of those races into winning the Derby or winning Triple Crown races. The Remsen last year was a doozy with Dornoch and Sierra Leone. And guys, those horses were making their second, third lifetime start. I think it was Dornoch's 4th lifetime start. And what a great year both those horses had in this year in 2024. I got to tell you, this year's edition of the Remsen, not real strong. Actually, a little disappointing, but there are some quality horses in here. It's just not a very deep race. Let's go ahead and bring that up, guys. The Remsen is race 7, 236 Eastern, mile and 1/8. Of course, it's restricted for 2-year-olds. There are Kentucky Derby points here on the line, $250,000. Morning line favorite is a pretty big one, and I think a well-deserved one based on the field. The number 5, Key Waden for Chad and Dylan Davis, 6-5. Morning line. Let's go ahead and take a look at who we are going with here. Let's see if we're all going with Key Waden. We are not. Actually, I'm the only one, interesting, that's going with Key Waden. I'm going 5-1-3. Pete's going 3-5-4. Paul's going 1-3-5. Paul, we're going to start with you. And most people don't know this, so I'm going to break a little bit of news. I put in 2 very small hedges, backup Kentucky Derby future bets. One of them is Tux, just to let everyone know. So I have a little bit of Tux here at, I believe I got 65 or 70 to 1 in the Kentucky Derby future pool number 2. So obviously I like this horse a little bit. Talk about Tux for your boy, Billy Mott, and another gentleman you are very fond of, Paul, Mr. Alvarado from the rail, 3-1, big stretch out, but is very well meant in this spot, in my opinion.
I agree, Howard, and I think the fact that Mott goes from 6.5 to 9 furlongs, I understand that this is a race potentially on the road to the Derby, but I've talked about this. I think it was with you. That is still a pretty big jump for a 2-year-old, and when Mott does something like that, it just gives me more confidence. I think this horse is pretty good. And in addition to Pratt and Alvarado, don't forget Jamie Roth of L&J Foxwoods, who had one of the best tweets the other day in the fallout from the debacle at Parks. She said if it was one of her horses and she were at the track, it would have been ugly. And let me tell you what, that would have been one of the great mismatches of all time. Ms. Jamie Lee Roth against Punchy Paco. Should have knocked
Paul,
him
if
out
I may interrupt you, I'm sorry. The first thing I want to
okay.
the first thing that I noticed, and you have to watch carefully, so I'm going to make it bigger once again. I don't know how big a horse math tutor is, but Tux is like, what is a hand is like a 1.5 feet. I don't remember. Where's Noah Maher when we need him? Anyway, the 6 is a few hands bigger. The 6 Tux looks like a big rangy horse, Paul. I mean, you can tell even by this angle how much taller and broader he is. He's the gray on the outside.
Yeah, and the other thing to consider, Howard, and we talk about this with some trainers, and Bill is one of them, although Bill's been better in the last few years, but you know that Bill is never necessarily looking for them to win first time out. If they do, they do. You can watch Junior's still a statue right here. He wants the horse to get an education. I do remember watching this race, and then afterwards, Junior's going to get into him. He's going to ask him here, but I just remember after this saying, "Boy, I want to see this horse when he goes longer." A little green there, but he is going to get by very easily, and he's just going to extend. He's by Tappet out of a Munnings mare, so I think the stretch to 1 1/8. I would predict he's going to do it. Obviously we never know until they do, but I think he's okay. I mean, inside 1 1/8 at Aqueduct, good spot. The start's right on top of the turn. So I think this guy might be pretty good, Howard. You might be cashing that Derby bet. You never know.
Wow. Well, I doubt that, but that'd be amazing. A little sprinty for me on the dam side, to be honest. I know you mentioned, fancy dress party. Matty G was a sprinter, the second family. I'm a little concerned in terms of, going 1.25 miles, but I have to believe, Paul, and I'm assuming Pete would feel the same way, even though Pete doesn't have this one in the mix in his top 3. There's no possible way Matt would put this horse in this race, Paul, unless he's confident this horse can get the 9 furlongs going second time out. So, I mean, there's a lot of other places he can go. To me, this is, and it's worked well for me before, not always, but at times, there's just a lot of intent here to me with Tux. And I've got this, I think Tux is going to sit a great trip, sitting right off of Key Waden. If Key Waden doesn't get the distance, I think Tux is a logical, probably second option here for me, and maybe some people's first option, like yourself.
Hey Paul, can I give you? I have stats on the good and bad, so you have to figure out which one you like better. So Bill Mott, when winner on debut, which again, Paul, that's not necessarily what you think of Mott doing. So winner on debut in dirt routes, he's won 4 out of the last 5 times, including, just FYI, winning the Frizette, the Grade 1 Frizette. So that was impressive. Second out. But then opposite of what you said, which is funny because you said you were comfortable him throwing him into the 1 1/8 here. He's 0 for 16, Mott, second time starters going 9 furlongs and up on the dirt. So it sort of goes the other way, but that's odd to me because I would have thought the exact opposite. So again, there's good stats, there's bad stats. Again, I don't even know if any of them matter. It's a second time starter. But I did like this horse originally and then sort of drifted off of him just a bit to have him sort of drop out of my top 3.
By the way, on the bottom of the screen there, Noah, thanks for sorry, Paul. Sorry. Thanks for joining the show, Noah. There you go. 4.5 inches. I knew a hand was in 1.5 feet.
Yeah,
if they're like 15 hats, we'd be talking about like 20
big horse.
High.
Yeah.
That would be a really tall horse. By the way, in case people are wondering, why is Howard looking down? I hear there's a Turfway carryover, and sorry, no, I had to play it. Anyway, the first race just went off. Oh, Paul, you do too. Should I tell you who won, Paul? Do you want to know, or you already know?
I just put it on. I don't.
The 8 won the first leg of the Turfway pick 5 as we're filming here Thursday night.
Good.
Anyway. Let's move on. Let's talk about the 3, Pete. I looked at the 3 real carefully. The number 3 is Poster for Godolphin and Pratt, 5-1. Has done absolutely nothing wrong in his 2 starts. This is Munnings out of a Tappet mare, however, trying to translate form from turf to dirt. A very interesting prospect in this race, Pete.
Yeah, again, I'm following my Pratt lineage here in these races, but this is one where you see Munnings on the top and you don't necessarily love that when you're stretching to 1 1/8, but I think the dam side and the Grand Dam, I forget who it was a really strong graded stakes router. So I apologize, I forget what her name was, but
I'll take care of that for you, Pete.
There you go,
my buddy. What do we got?
Cara Raffaella. Yes.
Oh boy,
yes.
Nice horse.
She was awesome.
Ooh.
So if you go back down there, third in the Oak, second Black Eyed Susan in the Ashland, the Mother Goose. So she was high quality. So I'm not too, when you see it on the dam side, then it doesn't concern me as much. And plus this horse has gone at least 1 mile on the turf in both races. The other thing I like, Owen Hardy, 2 for 12 wins only, but 9 for 12 with 2-year-olds going turf to dirt, including just winning with First Resort. this past weekend in a Derby prep race. So did it this past week. Let's see if maybe we can do it again. We picked up Pratt. If the horse takes to the dirt, and I like the tactical ability to where you made a good point, Howard, about when we get to Key Waden. I had a few questions about Key Waden maybe getting the 9 furlongs. So even though I think that horse has a pace advantage, if for some reason the distance gets to him, I think this is the kind of horse with Pratt that could just be sitting a perfect trip. And if he takes to the dirt, like Grandma did, and some of the others in the family, because there's a lot of dirt in the family, then I think this one has a shot. And maybe you get a decent price just because he's coming from the turf and the figures weren't necessarily super high. Nothing jumps out. There's a couple wins, but they don't jump out at you. So we'll see.
We like to teach on this show. Noah, if you're still watching, of course, Noah Maher, who's the host of Pacific Horse Players, is also a student at University of Kentucky in the equine studies program. Jeff Amster wants to know, Noah, if you're listening and watching, I suppose we can all look it up, but are the hands measured to the top of the withers? So if you're still there, Noah, and you want to comment, how do you measure one hand in horse racing parlance? I don't know what to do with Poster. He's done nothing wrong. I suppose he can win. It feels a little more of an experimentation here rather than that's what they really want to do. But hey, I think this is a good pick. I like Poster. I'm going to be using Poster defensively in my pick 5. Let's see. Let's talk about Key Waden, guys. It's my top pick. I think it's a very good horse. I'm going to tell you right now. By the way, I hope he won't mind. Charlie Freeman, co-host of Ben and Boozin, and with the epic rant last night. This is Charlie Freeman's Kentucky Derby Future horse, by the way, guys, or at least one of them, Key Waden. This is a nice horse. I do not know about the 1.25 miles. But you know what? He only has to get 1.1 miles, guys, on Saturday. And wow, this pace advantage, guys, is ridiculous. I mean, he looks as loose as he wants to be. I don't know if he wants the distance, but in this field, in this situation, guys, with other question marks, I just think he's got a great chance to wire the field. And I don't know if Chad really thinks this is a Derby horse. My guess is maybe not. I only say that, guys, because he went 6 over the summer and then 7. So he's trying to build him up, but he didn't go long like right away with him like he did with Sierra Leone and some others. So I don't know, but this horse is very talented, guys. I'm not going to show the replay, but he was involved in a fast pace, beat a good horse named Vault, lost to Tip Top Thomas. That Saratoga, by the way, this Saratoga maiden race that he ran in was loaded. This was a really, really fast race. I remember watching it live, guys. So that was one of the best maiden 2-year-old races over the summer. I just think he's too talented for the rest of this field, but I have to say, I'm not sure if he wants to go long. Officer, Paul, on the dam side was a very, very fast horse. You see the sibs here. Heart Rhythm was a sprinter. Heart Full of Stars was a sprinter. She Takes Heart was a not very good miler. She's on the Rocks, did go long, but was turfy. I don't know. Thoughts on this horse, guys, and then we'll move on.
I think Instagram, Mile and 1/8 was pushing it. It was on the Derby Trail, made it to as far as the Wood, I believe. But I think Gotham.
Made
it as far. It didn't make it as far as the Wood. But you could see, Mile and 1/8 Centimeter Derby led to the stretch. So you may be right, Howard. This horse might just have a real speed advantage. I just didn't think 6 to 5 to the next lowest horse at 3, almost three times lower odds than the next horse. I didn't really think there was that type of I think that's an overreaction. And I'm not criticizing David's line at all. I'm saying if that plays out, I want the 1 at 3 to 1 over the 5 at 6 to 5. 9 days a week.
Good job, Terry. Terry's live in that pick 5 at Turfway. Congrats. Got to beat the chalk there and got a second place finisher paid $24 to place. I heard there are some prices once in a while at Turfway. Wow. Okay, let's see here. Katie, shout out to Katie for Noah. Let's talk about Noah a little bit. Good young man. Key Waden, more push button versus Tux, who's a bit more grindy. Totally agree with there. totally agree with you, Noah. If Keewaydin gets away, it might be tough to run down. Thanks, Noah. I completely agree. Jackson Muniz, Jackson Muniz, very sharp young man who has been on our, actually hasn't been on this show. We got to get him on Picks and Ponies, guys. Tipped out a 43-1 shot, by the way, at Turfway last night. Unbelievable. 6-5 on Keewaydin against these horses. An irresponsible win bet from me. So, Jackson, I don't think we're getting 6-5, right, Pete? I'm smelling 3-5 here, to be honest.
I could see it. Yeah, I could see that. I could see it being pretty low. I mean, again, pace. It's hard to weigh whether do you favor the pace advantage or do you favor whether you're afraid of the horse getting the distance. You can win if you get a nice easy pace. You can stretch the distance a little further than you might want to if you're facing no pressure. So,
agreed. Let's go on to the next race, guys. The Demoiselle. This is the female version of the Remsen, grade 2, of course. Do you like my pronunciation, Paul? Are you surprised by that?
Very. Parlez-vous.
Been working on it. Here we go. Demoiselle. Wow, what a shocker. A 2-year-old filly for Cox, who is live in this race. I mean, his barn is just completely insane right now. Field of 10, going 1 mile and 1/8 also for the girls. $250,000. The favorite from the rail, Brad Cox, Florent Giroux, who, by the way, is riding Uncle Jim, guys, tomorrow, Friday, in the allowance race. Muhima, wow, very impressive horse, 4-5. Let's see where we're going. Boy, what's going on to Howard today? Mr. Chalk all of a sudden. I'm going 110-3. Pete's going 110-9. What? What in the world? Paul's going 8-2. 10. Paul took that funny medication again that we warned him not to take. I don't. Wow. What?
I like it. I like it.
Oh, wait a minute. It's not Alvarado, Pete. Now I just realized why. Okay.
I'm on day 4. Julie's away. Martha, I'm holding down the day with the fort with Martha on day 4. Her day program was canceled due to a power failure today. I'm drinking coffee. I'm delirious.
Okay, that's a tough decision for you. Do you go with Godolphin, Paul, or do you go with Mott and Alvarado? Wow, you're going with Beauty Reigns. This is an interesting second-time starter, 9-2 morning line. Let's go to you first, Paul. What do you like about this beauty? Pun intended, of course.
Well, it's kind of the same logic as with Tux, right? The stretch out. I thought the race was, had to work a little bit, but I don't think was overextended. I know, again, this is a value play. I understand the one has 2 dominant wins, but 2-year-old shipping for the first time. Again, I'm not a hater. And I think Giroux is a perfectly capable jockey, just not my favorite as we get into these races with numbers after them, and he's won plenty of them, so that this is just me being me. I was looking to find a way to beat the favorite, and I thought that the most logical way to do it would be with Mr. I can't talk, Mr. Mott.
There she is winning the debut, Paul.
Well, one thing we know, how by into mischief out of a Tappet mare, I'm pretty sure the 1 mile and 1/8 isn't going to be an issue.
I would agree. I would agree with you. I like a lot of things about this horse. I just think it's a tough ask, but I do like this horse. Yeah, I like this horse in general. And what I like even more about this horse, guys, is first time out, she beat My Sharona. Boom, 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 boom. Anyone feel free to sing. Great song. Great. Okay. Great. Pete, you're not much of a singer, are you, Pete? In the shower, maybe?
I am very much a singer, just not. I don't need to expose any of our fine listeners to it. My family will appreciates my wonderful singing. They hear it all the time.
People love this at home. They just don't want to admit it when I start singing.
We're trying to raise the listener count, not decrease it, so nobody wants to hear my voice.
Fair enough. Well, in that case, Pete, why don't we talk about the big chalk that we're going with? So we can make a ton of money here.
That usually brings in all the viewers picking the chalk.
Everyone knows I say it a lot. I'm happy to beat chalk, but guys, I'm not going to throw horses out there that I don't think are going to win. And I need to be honest with myself and the viewers and listeners. I don't know if Muhima is going to win this race, Pete, but boy, she has done absolutely nothing wrong. She's 4-5. Actually, I think I said Godolphin. I apologize to Godolphin. This is Shadwell Stables, excuse me. Munnings, filly, again, out of a very talented Tappet mare. I just see no reason why this Cox filly, Pete, cannot get distance here. Is going to get a great trip, has been working well. I guess the ship is a question. I mean, fair enough. Also hasn't worked over the track. I mean, they're right. I mean, none of these horses have gone a mile and eighth, guys, in this race or the previous one. So obviously there's questions in these two races, but this horse just fits like a glove, Pete. And if she runs to her ability, I just think she wins here.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to knock the first two races. She's super impressive, and whether you think the fields were any good or the level was any good, that doesn't matter when you sort of beat up on horses that easily. But and again, I think it's funny. There's a couple similarities. So this one, again, another Munnings on top, but you're getting the distance pedigree on the bottom, on the dam side. So you feel a little bit more comfortable there. There is other speed in this race. So I don't know if she's going to go from the rail. There's speed directly. So the 2-horse has some speed as well. Didn't show it last time, though, but has showed it in prior races. But I don't know if that'll change this time. There's some speed to the outside. So, again, if the one gets pressed, then maybe it's a little bit more uncomfortable. We'll see. I think that's it. But on the talent and execution in the first two races I thought looked professional. I think if I remember the replays correctly, I just think it's a really good horse and is a deserving 4-5 favorite. I don't think unbeatable by any stretch, but just looks pretty good. It's a hard one to leave off, especially, Cox is on fire, and there's a lot to like about this horse.
I agree. Paul, by the way, Tom Espinoza said, I get tested at work, so I can't take Paul's fun meds.
That's one thing. I have plenty of vices. That ain't one of them. I'm crazy enough without that crap.
Oh, that's good. Pete, we all actually have the 10 Ballerina d'Oro, which I wasn't sure if you guys were going to like this horse like I do. I know two things about this horse. Number one, this horse is going to have zero problem with the mile and eighth, which I'm a big fan of. And number two, maybe this is an experiment, but you know what? She's working really well. And here's my thought, guys. If Chad thought this was purely a turf horse, wouldn't she already be down in Florida, working at Payson or working at Palm Meadows, getting ready for some nice 3-year-old filly turf series of races down there, right? So the fact that Chad keeps her here, guys, and hasn't shipped yet and goes for this spot, I think she's interesting. She has enough breeding, certainly, for dirt, and she's going to get distance. I don't know about the pace setup. Maybe she might be too far back. I don't know if we're getting 8-1 either, guys. But, Pete, this one, Ballerina d'Oro, the 10 horse, interesting to me here in the Demoiselle.
Yeah, I actually had 2 A's, the 1 and the 10, and I wanted to put the 10 on top. My biggest concern with putting her on top was that she still can't break. And when coming from that far back, it's going to be tough, and especially you're on the outside, so which actually isn't bad if you don't break, because then you could just sort of drop to the back. But and if the pace does heat up, because there is some pace, the one thing I do like, and you hit on it, so obviously we know Medaglia d'Oro, 17% dirt route, so we know there, and there's only one sibling, and that's 16 there. And again, there wasn't dirt routes. If you go with this sibling, there's one sibling now, sprinty, but like you just showed, 7 out of 17 or 7 out of 16, I think, on fast dirt, whatever it is. That just shows me that at least on that side, we're getting on the dam side, we have some dirt pedigree. And like you said, there's been works on the dirt. They haven't been the most impressive, but they're solid enough. I'm not too concerned. She doesn't look like she'd be a great workhorse anyway, just from her style. She may be just a little slower than most. They're putting the blinkers on, which I assume is maybe to just get her into it a little bit more. I mean, look at her. She just breaks in dead last almost in every race. And that's why I didn't put her on the top line. I just wanted to see if they can clean that up a bit. But I would have her. I think she's sneaky, man. And if we can get those odds, I think it's kind of nice.
I think a big factor here is what the 2 does, which is Paul's second choice. And then we'll move on. Liam in the Dust, who's going to show some speed. Great name, by the way. If the 1 decides to send, there's other speed in here. It could heat up, and this one could get loose, I suppose, in theory, Paul. But this one needs to revert back to some earlier form and make sure that she gets the distance. But you would assume Pratt's going to send her and take his chances.
You would think, right? And may even have the opportunity to kind of race ride the one a little bit in the process, since the one is right next door. The thing about the 10 is, again, this could be, the female version of the Derby fever syndrome. They just might want to see, do we even want to pursue an Oaks path with this horse? Let's just see now if she might take to the dirt. I mean, I think what's going to happen in this race from the 10, I mean, she breaks last and goes over to the rail. That's pretty clear. That's what's going to happen with this horse, I think, because she's not going to be fast enough to do anything but get caught wide if she contests the pace. So, and as you said, Howard, if it gets too hot, then maybe Dylan can work out a trip, a rail trip, and we'll see what happens.
It's interesting, guys. Oaks points on the line, and will Brad Cox continue his 2-year-old dominance this year? Because males and females, again, he has been absolutely en fuego. Guys, one of the best races, I think, of the year. People can scoff at that. That's fine. The Cigar Mile, guys, every year is really good. There's always horses coming in from the Breeders' Cup races. There's some horses here, one in particular that skipped the Breeders' Cup that is extremely talented. This is just a really, really good race. I love 1 mile, 1 turn races, guys. Also, I just find them fascinating. It's a stamina test because they just have to pretty much, it's right between that sprinter and route, and they got to go, and there's really no time that they can slow down and take a breather, really. Let's take a look at the field of this year's Cigar Mile, guys. Used to be grade 1. It's a grade 2, $500,000. Like I said, 1 mile, 3-year-olds and up for the males. It's a field of 11. Very competitive this year, guys. Morning line favorite is the number 5, Mulligan, at 3-1 for Rudy Brissett and Flavian Prat. Let's see where we're going here. That is not correct for me. Hold on, wrong one. There we go. Sorry, guys. I am going 7-11-9. Pete's going 7-5-11, and Paul's going 1-10-5. Guys, I'm going to go first here. I don't think anyone in this screen is surprised that I'm going with Locked. And the reason why I'm going with Locked is many. Locked was my one of my Derby horses last year, along with Sierra Leone. I just thought, or that 2 years ago, my bad. You know what I mean. I thought Locked was going to be really something special. He is 3, my bad. I did like him last year. I liked him this year. He was not a future Derby pick, but he was one of my top choices in the Derby future. It just didn't pan out for him. He came back last time, guys. I thought he ran a big race off the layoff. Let's take a look at the PPs here. I need to switch this. Locked is, again, the 7-horse, guys. And as I switch, it's a very tough field. Locked is 9-2. I think that's pretty fair, guys. I loved his comeback run. We'll show it. He hadn't run in almost a year. He just had a lot of nagging issues his 3-year-old year this past year, and he wasn't able to debut until his last race. Got a 97 buyer. The field actually was not bad, but the way this horse did it, guys, he's the 2, was really impressive. He breaks fine, not like spectacular. It took him a little bit to gather himself, but once he did that, he's just sitting a perfect trip. He is asking quite aggressively because the horse on the outside, guys, was also asking. So, frankly, I think that makes his effort even better. It's not like he just stalked off of a slow pace and didn't have to ask. He was sort of aggressively ridden, guys, the whole way. And this time, and I don't know if you agree with this, Paul, I usually find the first race at a track, the track's usually a little bit dull. They haven't run over it yet officially. When I see a fast time in a race 1, I really take notice of that. Maybe it's just a weird angle that I'm wrong about. But, guys, this horse does it in hand late, and the time was 1:21 flat for going 7, a demanding distance. Look, this is a very tough spot. I think Pletcher shows a lot of confidence here. Pete, you agree? You're also going with Locked. He's gonna, a lot of things have to go right for him though, because this is a really tough field. But I think we might get 7-2, 4-1. I wouldn't take anything lower. I think he's really talented. This is a fascinating horse for me, not only in this race, Pete, but in 2025 as a handicap horse.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he showed a ton of talent and was, I mean, look, he was the favorite in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and was a little too far back and was coming late, and then just was on the shelf. So I think upside wise, not that there's other horses in here that don't still have upside as well, but I think this one is really untapped right now. So yeah, it could be where it's too much too soon and he just runs sort of a flat race and isn't good enough with some of these. But I think if second off that layoff, and again, it's only the only 3-year-old in the field, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, going against some, in some cases, much older. I think there's just a lot of untapped potential here that hopefully can just keep progressing because we love to see super talented horses progress and become really good, especially because the handicap division seems to be a little light some years. So it would be great if this horse is really good. And I agree. The comeback was impressive. Pletcher has some really good numbers, sort of second off those super lengthy layoffs. So hopefully he's sharper. Hopefully he's ready. I think a little bit extra distance will probably help him. I agree with you. The 7, I don't even think that's his game necessarily. And he still looked pretty good doing it, even being asked a bit. So I just like him, and I hope he runs really well just from a fan perspective. And I like him because he's a decent price too.
If I were to nitpick Pete on our choice, he's a little grindy. I wish he was a little more quicker turn of foot. Like I don't know if he can get in and out of holes right now, and I don't know if he's got that quick burst when he needs it. He was asked a lot in that last race just to sort of get going. He's not. Let's see. You know what he reminds me of, guys? Remember American Revolution for Pletcher a few years ago? He sort of reminds me. Well, I think won this race if I recall. He sort of reminds me of that kind of horse. So I like him. This is a tough spot. Book him, Dano, Paul. Boy. I don't know what to do with him. I'm a little surprised you picked on top only because you liked the horse, but you found reasons maybe to not like him quite as much. And you were exactly right because he took a lot of money in his last 2 races and especially the Paravel and didn't win. You got Irad though. And if I'm a fan of Bookham Dano, I don't know how you feel, Paul. Don't you want him to show a little more speed than he's been showing, especially from the rail? I mean, he was showing a lot of speed earlier. He's been a little mid-packish now, but I mean, he's been facing monsters. I don't know. I don't know what to do with Bookham Dano. He can obviously win. I like your pick. I just went other places. 4-1 morning line. Irad tax coming again, Paul.
Well, one thing you do know is he does show up every time, but
sure does.
Instead of what I think, Howard, how about if I give you a very thorough scouting report from the owner, Jay Brichione, who I just texted, and asked what what they're thinking going in. Okay. And I'm sure he won't mind my sharing. He might be watching. He's a fan of the show. He's training well. This will clearly be his toughest race. Positives. He's getting some weight here. We had been giving weight after the Woody Stevens. I don't mind the 1 hole. He's coming off the pace anyway and could save ground. Looks like he could appreciate a little more ground. He has Irad. There should be an honest pace to run at, as multiple horses want to be close. Negatives are his first time against older horses who have run as fast or faster sheet numbers and the size and quality of the field. If he runs well, it could open up a few distance and turf possibilities for next year.
Nice.
Whoa.
How's that for a thorough report?
That's phenomenal reporting right there, Paul.
Nice job.
That is beautiful.
Is longer better for him? I don't know.
Well, I'll be honest. He had a nightmare trip in the Jerkins and a less than ideal trip in the Perryville. He shows up every time, and neither I attribute to jockey era. Castellano.
It's funny, Paul. Did you rewatch the Perryville? Because I thought Irad was a little overconfident and then got himself stuck. I thought he rode him like it was easy, and then he was like, "Oh crap! Now I'm stuck behind a wall," and then got through late. That was
I agree, Pete. He rode him like a 3 to 5 shot, but he had a lot of horses in front of him and not a lot of room, as we'll see here. And
he's on the inside.
He misses by a neck to a
saving ground.
Yeah, he kicked in late though. I mean, that late kick is nice. So once he gets through, but if you're watching him here, it looks like he's like, "Oh, I got this race easy."
Yeah, I think the plan was for them to take a look at gradually
right there. He had to
them
wait
out.
a little bit. Yeah,
he keeps getting shut off.
But you know what? Right here, he's got no excuse, guys. I don't know, man. I don't know. He didn't really accelerate.
It's hard
to
tell if but he does a little bit late. Watch. Once he gets on him here, he comes through again.
I don't know,
if
guys.
you think that was a good trip, you're watching a different race than.
No, I don't. But yeah, I don't think it was a great trip. But he did find room. He didn't really explode through. He's not winning the gallop out.
Oh, there we go.
Well, it doesn't matter because if he had as much horse as you're saying, he would have been a few in front after the wire. So you guys can crap on me for it. That's fine. I can take it. I don't like if he had that much energy, guys, he would have still had energy, and he didn't. I don't know. I'm not saying the horse can't win. I like the pick, Paul.
Yeah, I mean,
this
is as you point out, this is a very good race. You could make a good case for 1, 2, 3. I got to tell you what, for a Coastal Mission at 12-1, sleep on that horse at your own peril, folks. The West Virginia bred. That horse is good.
I love to hear people in the chat about the kind of trip that we just watched. I mean, was that a bad trip? Was that a medium trip? Was it really no excuses? I put it a little, not the best trip, but I also don't think he had a lot of excuses. So I guess I'm going both ways on it there a little bit. Let's see here, guys. You talked about the 10 Coastal Mission. Boy, this was a tough beat from you guys in the Breeders' Cup betting challenge. Post time was just too far back. Sheldon Russell. Yep. Similar, actually, the race we just watched, right? From Book 'em Down, just was caught behind, was too far back, made a huge run to finish the full Serrano. But he's a little bit similar, guys, to Senior Buscador, although he's going to be more tactical. But they both need the right trip at the right time. And in a big, talented field, you're taking a risk there. Paul, you have him nowhere. Pete, you've got him third. I think he's a nice horse who is one good trip away from winning. But we'll see, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, if you look on his PP, well, first of all, he's never missed the board, so he always runs his race. And if you look, the loss to Full Serrano, who's a really nice horse in the Breeders' Cup, Arthur's Ride, National Treasure, even Messier, who was actually picking up some steam at that point, and that wasn't a terrible race. And I thought Post Time was making up some nice ground late. There's just always a lot to like, and he's just a horse that runs really well. And it depends on the trip he gets. Again, you don't want him to be too far back. And if he sort of gets stuck behind and he's hung wide a little bit, then that's a bit of a concern. But I like him. I mean, I just think he's such a really good horse, and he's a cool horse, and he's a Maryland bred. So that's cool for us Maryland folks. But I don't know. I have no knocks against the horse, except maybe the trip might get him beat because there's going to be some horses who are going to get the jump on him, and they're good. So it's not like he's going to be running down horses that aren't potentially either better than him or at least on the same level as him.
I agree. I've got Senior Booster in the mix because I think he's rounding back into form, although I think that speed figure was flattered by the very fast pace. So I don't love Senior Buscador, but I think he's obviously classy enough. Let's see, Paul, let's all at the 5, and then we'll talk about our rants here. Mulligan, I didn't think I'd like him in the sprint. I ended up using him somewhat heavily. He ran okay. I don't know. I thought his last the two races before, Pete, I thought were dressed up a little bit, and so that's why I was a bit iffy with him in the Breeders' Cup sprint. But I changed my mind. I don't know what to do with him, guys. I just don't. Paul, help us out here. Or Pete,
I like this horse, Paul.
Okay. Mulligan is in a very non-exclusive club, a horse that I used in the Breeders' Cup who did not run well. There are dozens and dozens of them out there. So I kind of like him here. I think I like speed horses that are stretching out. I think he can carry it. I think it's an interesting placement by Brisset, who is pretty judicious about where he puts his horses. I'm not so sure what he was doing in 8th last time. I mean, I love Pratt as much or more than the next guy, but that horse being in 8th, coming off races where he was first, second, first, second, third, first, that was just not really smart. He was stuck outside too. In fairness, he was stuck outside.
That post at Delma, because I had a stat that was left over from the Breeders' Cup, and that post in the summer meet prior to the Breeders' Cup was like 0 for 20 something coming from that 10. So I think a lot of things went against him there.
I think the post is good. Could hurt post time here because I don't know that that's how they want to ride post time. It clearly was too far back last time, and may end up. If they're inclined to be more aggressive, that becomes a little more difficult from way out there unless you're going to be super aggressive. And this isn't the type of horse you're going to see on the. Although you did, in Laurel in a listed stakes race, he was toward the front. But I don't love the post. I think post time will be over bet coming out of the Breeders' Cup. I mean, to your point, Pete, I'd love to see a Maryland bred win this race. I have the utmost respect for Brittany Russell, so nothing against the horse, but I think this horse is really bad value at that price.
By the way,
I'm usually against the breeder.
Oh, go ahead, Howard. You go first.
No, I'm usually against the Breeders' Cup horses in these kind of races, guys, but this has been a full month. He's been working back. I'm much more against Breeders' Cup horses that run over Thanksgiving weekend, which I've talked about that over and over every year we've been on the show, and usually comes to fruition. So, but anyway, that's all I want to say, Pete.
Just one quick thing back on Mulligan. I read something where Brissett said that he actually wanted to run. He would have run Mulligan in the Breeders' Cup Mile. He really likes him at the mile if it was one turned. And so he wound up cutting back, which he didn't necessarily want to do, and then got compromised a bit by the post. So I think it just didn't go to plan. And I think maybe this, because I think he's really strong at 7. So again, going the one turn mile, maybe. I know the extra furlong can sort of get some horses, but I don't think it's going to get this one. So I was sort of waffling between. I think Locke's upside is what got me a bit, but I think Mulligan was really where I was leaning at first. And again, it's 3-1, so it's not like I'm breaking ground here. But I just really thought I like this horse more than I thought I would. Like you said, Howard, coming in, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like Mulligan. And then I was looking, I was like, man, I really like this horse. And then I read that stuff, and it sort of tipped the scales for me.
Yeah, just to remind everyone who got a great tip sheet, look below the video player, great website as well, hhhracingpodcast.com. Please hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 5K. My goal actually is 6K, guys, in 2025. Please hit that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber, notification bell, like button, all that good stuff. Let's go to the best bets, guys, then we'll have some rants here. Paul's best bet. Let's go to Paul first. Now, these are just best bets, guys, ladies and gentlemen, for the 4 stake races. Paul's going to race 7. That is the Remsen, correct, Paul? He's going to pick 3. Pick 3, 7, 8, 9. Remsen, Demoiselle, Cigar, Mile. He's going 1-3 with 2-8 with 1-5-10. That would be a $12 pick 3 for $1. And then he is going to go with Bookham Dano, the number 1 in the Cigar Mile. I don't think we need much explanation here. Pete is going also the race 7 with a pick. Wow, look at this. Also a pick 3. 3-5 with 110 with 1-5-7 11. That would be a $16 pick 3 for $1. He's also going to race 8 in the Demoiselle. He's going to Dutch and Exacta, which means betting different amounts to get the same end result. Profit 110. That is the favorites, with the 10 horse on the outside. Names are escaping me, but that's the Shadwell horse and the Chad.
Yeah,
correct?
Muhima and the Ballerina Dioro or whatever
there you
it
go.
was. Yep.
Pete, 3-10-1, we both hit it, Pete. 3-10-1, we both
All right,
hit
then let's just play that straight, Paul. Me and you. We'll just play that one for an extra 20, and then we'll
By the way, that would pay. That'd be over $100 for $1, nice. I think. If that
Oh yeah, that's beating the 2 heavy favorites in the first 2 legs.
That would be lovely. Good. Yeah.
It's not a lock, but I like locked. I do like Locke quite a bit. I think he's the up and comer here. He's gonna have to run a big race. I think he's capable of doing it. So I'm going race 9. I'm going a win bet on locked, and then I need locked to come in first and second in my exactas. So I'm gonna key him in exactas in first and second. Locked over 1-9-11, and then 1-9-11 over locked. That would be Bookham Dano, Senior Buscador, and post time over locked, and vice versa. All right, guys, a lot of stuff happened in horse racing here. I don't know if Pete has a rant. I have a small rant that's actually not horse racing related because I just have something on my mind. But we're going to go to the Sooth, the OG, of course, of our rant. So let's go to first our rant of the week from Mr. Paul Halloran. Paul, I've been waiting for this for a few days ever since. Well, actually, I don't know what you're going to talk about, to be very fair. But Paul, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, perhaps, Howard, I'm going to talk about the fact that there are 49 racing days at Saratoga this year. 5 for the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival, 4 for the now new July 4th Racing Festival, and the regular 40. Perhaps. Great news. I hope to be there for almost 1/3 of them. Perhaps I'm going to talk about, Howard, the return of Bob Baffert to Churchill Downs. And I got to tell you, that was great theater with Barnes running. I know we previewed the race, but the whole thing was great theater. And I will say, and I've knocked both sides plenty, that was really handled very well by both Churchill and Baffert. They went out of their way to be cordial to each other. Baffert said unbelievable things, and that clearly was to get his return out of the way prior to the Derby next year, so it's not a total spectacle. But I'm going to talk about something that happened at Parks the other day. And well, I guess we should go backwards because Paco Lopez got himself a good PR guy, and I can respect a good PR guy. And he came out today and was very remorseful. And he said he's going to take some time off and work on his himself and his anger. And that's what happens, frankly, when, God forbid someone gets arrested for drunk driving. The first thing they do is they go into rehab, because then they become a more sympathetic character. In case you've been living under a horse racing rock, Paco Lopez was riding a horse. The horse was a young horse, pretty much bolted to the far outside. He did a good job keeping the horse on the track, managed to still win the race. So you would think all good, all's well that ends well. But he was pissed off at the horse. I don't know if I can say that, but I just did. And on the gallop out, the vaunted gallop out, he gave the horse what would be an illegal strike under HISA rules, an overhand cross, and not on the flank, but across the neck. And he did it not to teach the horse a lesson, because the horse, we love them and they're smart animals, but the horse is not going to be bright enough to figure he just got hit across the neck for something he did halfway down the stretch. Paco did it because he was mad at the horse. And look, I'm half Irish and I'm half Italian. I can appreciate a bad temper more than anyone. Okay. But what really bothers me about this, obviously, it's quote abuse of the horse. I mean, the horse isn't going to die from a whack across the neck. He's a 1,200-pound animal. But what bothers me is two things in addition to that. This guy has been reckless as a jockey for years. And frankly, a lot of people have looked the other way because he wins at a high percentage at Monmouth and at Gulfstream. If you think he'd be winning at that percentage riding New York or Kentucky or California every day, then you need to get your head examined. He's good. He's not that good. But he has been reckless. He got, in addition to being reckless, last year he got 30 days for costing Riding with Biden second place in the Greenwood Cup at Parks on Pennsylvania Derby Day, outright stopped riding and got the horse caught for second. In 2022, he got 14 days for careless riding in the Fountain of Youth, a Derby trail horse in which a road to the Derby stakes race in which Bill Mott had a horse, High Oak, who was on the Derby trail, who ended up falling and was off the Derby trail. He got 14 days for that. In 2021, he ticked off Irad Ortiz so much in a race that Irad won, that when they got back to the winner's circle, Howard, why don't you show that what a lot of us wanted to do Tuesday?
I'm going to do it on my phone, guys, if you can see. There it is.
Go back a little because you got to get the first right, Pete. The first right was just
big.
That's
that was we'll get the idea.
You get the message. Now look at Irad's no angel, okay? But and that used to go on in the jocks room all the time. It doesn't anymore. That they still they're not averse. But my point is for Irad to do that in the open, in public, the guy has been reckless on the track. But probably the absolute worst thing about what he did the other day is it probably is already in a fundraising email for people eating tasty animals, our friends at PETA, okay, whom I hate, who are frauds, who have no desire to do anything but shut us down. And what he did, if you do that during the race, and, as I put on Twitter, Howard, Heisa is fining jockeys for hitting a horse one time too many trying to win a Breeders' Cup race. Oh, you hit him 6 times instead of 5. That's one thing, okay? But for this, they're going to say, this is how these horses are treated. He won the race, and they still did that. So that, if you want to be ticked off at Paco, that's the most damaging thing he did in that, was just give the game yet another black eye that we don't need. He can take as much time for himself as he wants. If he comes back, great. If he doesn't come back, no one should lose an ounce of sleep.
Very nicely said. We got some people in the chat who have opinions, like Noah Maher, who is around horses all the time, and because it's his job as a college student. Horses have a very short memory. I actually didn't know that. I'm assuming he knows that neurologically. To make the case that this is, quote, negative feedback, unquote, is completely outrageous. Sort of your point, as you were saying.
Yeah, he did it because he was mad. Oh, Matt brings up a good point.
Go ahead and read it, Paul, from Matt Miller. Go ahead, Paul.
Matt Miller, I hope this rant extends to the POS trainer, George Duart, who defended Paco. These people supposedly love their animals like their children. How many parents would jump to defend someone? So here's the story on that. George Duart is a private trainer for Colts Neck Stables. Colts Neck does very well at Monmouth in Pennsylvania, in the Mid-Atlantic Circuit. So George Duart decides he's going to defend his pal Paco right after the race. Bad move, George, because the next day, that night, Stephen Santulli, who is the son of Colts Neck owner Richard Santulli, came out with a tweet saying, we don't support what Paco did, and we don't support our trainer supporting him. So the next day, George Duart also had a come to Jesus moment, and he put out a letter saying, oh, I was really wrong in supporting Paco. Yeah, you bet your rear end you were wrong, because you're a private trainer for a group that was probably an eyelash away from dumping you, okay? So people do stupid things in the heat of the moment. I get it. But Matt brings up a good point. For the trainer to try to defend that, it's on video. How about the people on Twitter? Well, we shouldn't jump to conclusions until we hear from Paco. Hello, it's on video. I don't think we need to hear from Paco. It's on video, folks. This wasn't a he said, horse said thing. This was on video. So a good point by Matt, as always.
I just want to say one thing about this, because Paul, you've covered it, like a glove here tonight, and Pete, you can comment obviously as well. Maya Angelou, one of my favorite poets, authors, said, when they show you who they are, believe them the first time, or something to that effect. This whole Duarte thing, guys, look, we all make mistakes. We're all human. This contrition nonsense, I'm not buying it. No one should buy it. No one. This is a complete CYA issue. Paul knows it better than anyone, being in PR. If you know what CYA is, look it up. I don't believe him. That it's too late for all that, in my opinion. Pete, any quick thoughts? And then I have a short rant, and we'll wrap up the show unless you have a rant yourself.
No, I'm good. Paul
Okay.
covered most of it. The only thing that's funny is nowadays people get in trouble, Paul, because with Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, or any sort of social media, sometimes, and what happened here is the first instinct, people want to put that out to the world. So you don't have the cover of, hey, let's wait a few hours. We'll talk to the PR team, and then we'll come out with something with some contrition in it, some more apologetic. In this case, they come out with what their first instinct is, and that's usually what their real thought is, not the bull crap stuff that goes in the PR. So that's actually the benefit of social media. In some cases, you see what the real response was that day.
This is a great tweet.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That is unbelievable. I'll tell you.
Oh, boy.
That's a whole other story, Howard. I know I defended. I think we all defended him. To do it a second time, that's no bueno, to quote my good uncle.
For those of you that are on the listening platform, we're talking about Luan Machado right now. Guys, real quick, let me just have I have a short rant, if I may. I had the pleasure of visiting my brother in Los Angeles for Thanksgiving. It was great to see him and his wife and my in-laws. And it was the first time I went to a Los Angeles Lakers basketball game. And I got to see one of the best players in the history of the game, LeBron James. Now, hold on. I'm not LeBron James' biggest fan. I think most people know I'm from Chicago. And so if you want to call me biased, that's fine. Let me tell you guys something. LeBron James is clearly a top 5 player in the history of the NBA. In my opinion, it's not even for debate. And I would argue he might be the best athlete, pure athlete, to ever play basketball. Size, strength, the whole package. But guys, I was there for, of course, for the starting lineup and whatnot, and I gotta tell you, look, I love LA. They've got good fans, whatever. When the Bulls were in their heyday, and they would do like everyone knows the famous music and the starting lineup, you couldn't even hear yourself. I'm assuming it was the same way at the Garden and other places, etc. Guys, when they were announcing the Los Angeles Laker starting lineup, and this was against OKC, who was the best team, or second best team in the league, and it was a big game because the Lakers had a good record before they've gone on their slide. Guys, it was just like another. It was there was like no big loud cheering. It was just very meh. So look, Lakers fans, LA fans, I know you're good sports fans. I gotta tell you, your enthusiasm is nowhere close to what I've experienced in the Midwest. And I'm sure Paul and Pete in the Northeast. Number one. Number two, I know there are a lot of LeBron fans out there, but can we please stop having this ridiculous debate on who the best NBA player is in the history of basketball? And the main reason why this debate is ridiculous is because LeBron is playing half a game right now. And when I mean half a game, I don't mean half of the minutes. I mean when he's out there, guys, like a quarter of the time, he wasn't even getting back on defense past half court. It's completely embarrassing. He should either retire, or a coach who I'm not a big fan of, JJ Redick, needs to realize you have a team to coach, not LeBron James. This guy needs days off. He should be playing a lot less. And if he's going to play, insist that the best basketball player in the history of the game actually plays both ends of the court. And the reason why some people, guys, consider him the best player ever is because his stats, he is padding stats. He's played like 8 more seasons and a zillion more games than Jordan ever did. It's not even a debate. It's not even close. Stop it. LeBron's a great player. He needs to go, or he needs to get less playing time. Done.
I'll have the debate, the top 5 debate with you someday over a beer at a racetrack.
And I'm not a LeBron fan, but
it's so insulting to Michael Jordan to even have. I would not have that debate with anyone, because that would not be a judicious use of my time.
Just out of curiosity, and then we'll end the show, Paul. We're on now. You're a Boston guy, but you can be honest with us.
Yeah.
You can look at you can look at very honestly. Where's Larry Bird in the history of NBA basketball? Is he top 5 player to you?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And
different
that's
era.
different era. That's similar to probably you with Jordan. That may not be very objective, but I mean, I think the comparisons are good with those two, just because of what they did, what occurred when they, what I mean? They was just such transcendental, transformative players. And Howard, to your point, and we'll get over this.
Paul. Well, it's another.
Well,
subject.
I mean, that's a whole other subject.
Bill Russell comparison there.
But Jordan was Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, that's why this is so. That's what people today. Howard, what you will love about this, and we'll end this. I had an argument with a young kid, and everyone's a young kid to me, but in the bar at the Saratoga Hilton on Belmont Stakes weekend, kid from Kentucky, exercise rider, or wannabe exercise rider, good kid, very cocky, was with a much older woman, very attractive. A kid, just an aside. I mean much.
Good for him.
I mean much older, Pete. Yeah,
that's probably why. Please tell us more.
Pete, I think that's what made it more attractive.
I like, me. I don't discriminate.
So, but no, he dropped the whole LeBron greatest of all time thing. And you know me, Howard, I can't.
No.
Poor Bob Mullins knew he wasn't getting out of there for a while, because I can't let that go. And nor did I.
Paul, I'll say this too, and I'm sure people are going to disagree. I don't think second best player is even close. I think it's Kobe by far. By far. That's just my opinion. Love it or leave it, folks.
We could. This would be a show some night because you better have Magic Johnson in your top 5. He played center in an NBA Finals game.
He is.
And won.
He is. And by the way, they've all got their flaws on and off the court, including Jordan. Jordan was no saint. He got a lot of calls. He flopped. Look, whatever. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there because I saw my first Laker game and I was aghast.
Matt Miller's got to get his brain out of the gutter.
Uh-oh.
His mind is. I clearly threw the gutter out there, and he jumped right in.
Okay, guys, a lot of fun. We'll take a look at at the chat when it comes up. Thanks a lot, Pete and Paul. Really appreciate it. Exciting weekend in New York. Check out our other shows. We previewed Los Alamitos. How about that? And their late pick 4, which is a $1 base bet. We also previewed Gulfstream Park, which made Charlie Freeman very happy because he will be down there in a few weeks. Actually, I will be down there also, guys, live in person. We'll have to talk about maybe a live show from Gulfstream. For my wonderful co-hosts, Paul Halloran, Pete Visco, this has been your host, Howard Kravitz. It's been episode 383, of Picks and Ponies. Crush your bets in New York on Cigar Mile Day, the Demoiselle, the Remsen, and the Gopher Wand this Saturday. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.